Welcome to the Westcourt Crochet channel and welcome to Jacob's Tank Top. A written pattern is available for purchase. There should be a link in the description below. If you like what you see here, please let me know by tapping the like button. If you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell for a heads up on future content. A huge thank you to everyone who's taken the time to watch, subscribe and comment so far. It really means so much. Hopefully, as I add more content, we can add to our little group. With that in mind, on with today's project. I picked up my yarn at a local store here, so I don't think you'd be able to buy the exact same product, but any yarn recommending a 4mm hook will produce a similar result. I used a 5.5mm hook for the main body and a 2.5mm hook for the edging trim. You will also need a tape measure, stitch markers and a yarn needle to weave in your ends. Before any crochet can commence, the following measurements and calculations are needed. Find the midpoint across the top of each shoulder and measure between those 2 points. This is your shoulder measurement. Measure around the body at the widest part and divide that measurement by 2. That will be the total width measurement. And finally, to line up the pattern, we need to divide the body into side 1, shoulder section and side 2. Take the total width measurement, deduct the shoulder measurement, divide the remainder by 2. That gives you side 1 and side 2. I'm going to start by making a chain which covers my measurement mid-shoulder to mid-shoulder. For me that's 30 centimetres. I need to make sure that my chain count is divisible by 4. So I'll get as close to 30 centimetres as I can get whilst maintaining a chain count that's divisible by 4. I'll let you know how many that is in a second. I've worked up 32 chains, keeping my chains nice and loose so that the next row doesn't bow in. 32 chains measures 29 centimetres, which is divisible by 4. If I add another 4 on, I'm going to go over my 30 centimetres, so I'm actually going to leave it at 32 chains and 29 centimetres. I popped a stitch marker into the last chain because I now need to measure out the side section, and I need 9 centimetres for that, so I'll see where that comes to. So I've added another 8 chains. Now that takes me an extra 8 centimetres rather than the 9 that I was looking for. But again, another 4 is going to take me too far over. So I'm going to leave it at 8 and 8 centimetres. I'm going to add another 8 because the other side needs to be added on as well, and that's going to be the same measurement. And that's my full width. 48 chains. So my 48 chains, when stretched ever so slightly, measures 44 centimetres. I was aiming for 48, so that's close enough. The end result will stretch a little anyway when worn, so that's fine. So I'm going to chain an extra one to turn, and I'm going to turn my chain. So I'm going to work into these back loops. So missing the first back loop, because that's my turning chain, into the next back loop I'm going to make a single crochet. And I'm going to make 3 more into the following 3 stitches. That's 3 and 4 in total. Right, and then I'm going to chain 8. The chains that I've just made are tighter than the ones for the start chain because this chain forms part of the actual pattern, so it needs to be quite neat. Now into the base of my chain 8, in the last single crochet that I worked, the front loop going from top to bottom, I insert my hook through there and through the next stitch, so the next loop right next to it. You can see. Just do that again. So there's the last single crochet that I worked. In through that front loop, the loop nearest to me, and the loop right next door to it. So just hold down the chain, yarn over, and pull through everything for a slip stitch. And that leaves me with a little loop. Into the next 4 back loops, I'm going to make 4 single crochets. Then I'm going to chain 8 again. And again I'm going to slip stitch into the base of that chain. So the last single crochet, loop nearest to me, the front loop, and the loop next to that one at the base of the chain, and just slip stitch through everything. And that's what I'm going to do for this row. 4 single crochet, chain 8, slip stitch into the base, 4 single crochet, chain 8, slip stitch into the base, all the way to the end. At the end of row 1 I have a row of single crochet with 11 loops on top. There's no loop at the end, I should say. It was a loop and then the 4 single crochet, and that's it to end that row. So from here, chain 1 to turn, and I'm going to work back with a row of single crochet, just 1 stitch in each. So if I work the first 4, and 4, and then I come to the first chain. So I'm going to take the chain and push it forward and then pull it to the right, because I want to make sure that I don't miss this first stitch coming out the other side of the chain. So work that stitch, and then there should be 3 more between here and the next chain. And 4. And again, next chain, push it forward, just pull it to the side so that you can see that first stitch on the other side, and work the 4. Do that all the way along, pushing the chains forward each time. At the end of row 2, that single crochet row has pushed all the loops forward and held them in the front position. You can see there's nothing going on at the back. All the loops are now in the front. So for round 3, or row 3, chain 1 to turn, and it's going to be half double crochet, US terms. And I'm going to work some more loops whilst doing so. So I'm going to start with a standing half double, using my method. I don't know if anybody else does it the same. There are various methods, but this is mine. Insert my hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop only, grab hold of those 2 loops, slide my hook out, pop it back in the opposite direction, yarn over, pull through those 2 loops. And for me that looks more like a half double than a 2 chains does, which can look a bit gappy. So then I'm going to do a regular half double, so yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through those 3 loops. And I'm going to do 2 more. So we've got 4 stitches in total. Then I'm going to chain 8. And slip stitch into the base as before. So the last stitch I worked, the front loop of that, and his little neighbour here. So hold down the chain, yarn over, slip stitch through everything. Then I'm going to do 4 more half doubles and 8 more chains and slip stitch into the base, and that's this row the whole way down. Five, 6, 7, 8, and slip stitch. So work all the way down with that, and that's row 3. So that's row 3, on to row 4. Chain 1, turn, skipping the turn chain as always. I'm going to work single crochets again, pushing these loops forward and securing them into the front position. So 4 single crochet up to the first loop, whoops, drop me out, push the loop forward, 4 out the other side. So not missing any stitches as I go back, I'm just working either side of this loop and pinning it down. So all the way along, 4 stitches between each loop, pushing it forward as I do so. So that's the end of row 4, and from here I'm going to do a repeat of rows 3 and 4 until I get a chunk that goes up to my underarm section. I have to bear in mind that I'm putting a bottom band on here of about 6 centimetres. I'm going to put an arm trim of about 3 centimetres, and I need to make sure that I've left enough room under the arm to allow for a sleeve for the item I'm going to wear underneath it, a shirt underneath it. So for me, I'm going to work a total of about 15 centimetres. I'll let you know how many rows that is when I come back. I'll just start off the next row with the standing half double crochet to show that again, and then I'll just leave it from there and I'll come back when I've done my 15 centimetres. So chain 1 to turn as always, insert my hook, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through loop number 1, grab my loops, slide out my hook, slide it back in this direction, yarn over, pull through those 2 loops, and then from there just regular half doubles, 3 of them, chain 8, slip stitch into the base, and so on till I get my 15 centimetres. I'll let you know how many rows when I come back. I'm back. I have my 15 centimetre chunk. I've worked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loops in total. So that's 16 rows. At this point, I'm going to turn this bath mat into something that looks like the image at the top of the video. This is the Jacob's ladder stitch, and it works by creating all of these loops and then linking them into each other to form the ladder. The easiest way to do that I found is with a giant hook. So I have this 10mm hook. You can do it with your fingers also, but I'll do it with the hook because it's easier. So in through the bottom loop, in through the next loop, pull it through, into the next loop, pull that loop through the one below it, into the loop above, pull it through the one below. Just do that all the way up and link them all until you have your finished ladder, like so. So all loops intertwined to form the little ladder. I'm going to do that with the rest of them and I'll come back. So that's me all linked up with a full set of ladders. Going back to my shoulder to shoulder, the mid-shoulder to mid-shoulder point on my body, that point for me is here and here, this ladder and this ladder. So either side of here and here, this is the underarm section. So these shoulder points, these shoulder ladders, are going to go right the way up to the tops of my shoulder along this and mark that centre point. These underarm sections need to stop here. So for the next row, I'm going to start tapering in for the underarm, and I'm going to work on locking down these 2 ladders which I need to close off. If you're playing along at home and you're working a different size, you can have maybe no ladders on your underarm section and just 4 stitches and then your shoulder point. If you're working the same size as me, you'll have the same size number, obviously, just the 1. If you're going larger, you might have more than 1. So if you have none to close off at this point, if you're working smaller, you don't need to pay attention to this next section. I'll let you know when you need to jump back in. If you're the same or larger, just follow on with what I'm doing next. So as I mentioned just now, I'm going to start tapering off at this next row for the underarm section. So to do that, I need to work decreased stitches. So I work 2 stitches together as 1. As I'm working in batches of 4, I'm going to work 2 lots of decreases at the start and at the end of the row. So going in with the start of my standing half double crochet, insert my hook, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through loop number 1, slide out my hook, pop it back in and stop there. For here I'll yarn over and go in for the second half double, so into that very next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through everything to decrease. I'm going to decrease into the next two, so yarn over for the half double, insert my hook, pull through a loop, yarn over for the next one, insert my hook, pull up a loop, 5 loops, yarn over, pull through all 5, and now those 4 stitches have become 2. As I'm closing off this next ladder, I don't work the chain at this point. I'd normally work a chain, but I'm not going to work any more chains on this row only. So from here I just go straight across with 4 half double crochets. Which brings me to my shoulder ladder. And here I start the chains again. So chain 8, slip stitch into the base, 4 half doubles, chain 8, slip stitch into the base, 4 half doubles, all the way across to the last 8 stitches. Here at the final 8, I'm going to work 4 half doubles, no loop because I'm closing this row, and then I'm going to do a decrease into the next 4 stitches, so 2 at a time. Yarn over, insert for the half double, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 5 loops, and again, and 4 stitches become 2. On the next round I have much to do. I'm going to do the single crochet row, so pushing forward the loops as normal. I'll also be forming a decrease at the start and the beginning, the start and the end, and I'm going to be locking off the first and last ladders whilst doing so. So I've chained 1 to turn, and I've turned. If I'm performing a single crochet decrease, I'd be into the first stitch, pull up a loop, into the second stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3 loops. So I'm going to be doing that, but I'm also going to be locking this ladder off with those 2 decreases that I'm going to perform next. The ladder is always going to be locked off 4 stitches before the last one, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one before it. So regardless of what's going on at this end where I'm performing decreases, I count from the next loop 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's the 4th and the one next to it. So in this instance I'm going to decrease into the first stitch, so hook in, yarn over, pull through a loop, hook into the next stitch and add on my loop, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So I performed the decrease for the 2 stitches between 1, and into that second stitch I added the loop from the ladder. So I'm going to do that again for the next one, and this time the loop goes on with the first stitch. So yarn over, pull up a loop, pull up a loop for the second one, and close off. And there's my decreases. And, oops, I just headbutted the thing. This ladder is now locked off. Just make 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches. Oops, if it'll let me. So now I'm back to 4 stitches at this end. From here, hold down my loop, work my 4, hold down my loop, work my 4, all the way along, again, till I get to the last loop that's sticking up here. And we're back there. I'm here at the last loop. I've worked my 4 stitches before the loop. Hold that piece down and work 2 single crochets to mirror what I did on the other side, the other end. I'm left with 4 stitches. I'm going to work 2 lots of decreases. Whilst doing so, I'm going to latch up the end of this ladder. So into the first stitch, insert my hook, pull up a loop. Into the second stitch, insert my hook into the stitch and my ladder top, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Into the next stitch and then into the ladder, pull up a loop, into the next stitch, the last one, pull up a loop, pull through all 3. That's the decrease and the ladder is secured. So this is what this looks like at the front now. This ladder is all shut down. It's going no further. I'm going to work just this middle section now from here on for a little while. If you have more than one ladder to lock off, you need to repeat those last 2 rows over and over until each ladder that you have in your underarm section is closed off. And whilst doing so, you'll be tapering the underarm section. So you start with your decreases, your 2 sets of decreases. You then follow on with 4 half double crochets, work all the way to the last 8, you do your 4 half double crochets and then your 2 lots of decreases, and then you come back with your single crochet row, locking off your loops and decreasing at the same time as you do. So there'll be a timestamp in the description box to go back to the last 2 rows, so you can just keep repeating those over and over until all of your underarm loops are closed. So for everybody else, this is where we jump back in. So at this point, everybody has closed off any underarm loops that they had, and we all have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches before the shoulder ladder, which is my second ladder along, that one being the underarm one. So I'm going to perform a decrease again into these next 4 stitches because I want just 2 stitches running up the exterior portion of the ladder up to the shoulder. So again, I've chained, no, I'm going to chain 1 to turn, there we go, and turn, and then I'm going to do the decrease of the half double crochet. So in, say up for the decrease at this point, into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through everything. And we go for the next one. And I've got 2 stitches now before my shoulder portion. Then I chain 8. Because this is going all the way up to the top. Slip stitch into the base. And 4 half doubles. Chain 8, 4 half doubles all the way along until I get to the last 4 stitches, which I'll decrease again to make them into 2. I'm at my last 4 stitches after my last loop, and I'm going to perform my last 2 decreases. So yarn over, insert into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, and one more time. And now I have 2 stitches at this end prior to the end loop, the shoulder loop. So I'm coming back now with a single crochet row. Obviously there's just 2 stitches at the beginning and 2 stitches at the end. The rest have 4 in between as usual. And I'm going to work rows, no more decreases, keep the loops going until I get a section that reaches up to within 3 centimetres of where I want my top to finish on the chest. The shoulder portions will go on from there, but the chest will stop in about 3 loops, I think. I'll put another 3 loops on. I'll let you know how much when I come back. So I'm back, and I did add on just 3 more loops in the end, but I also added an extra row of half double crochets, but this time only the shoulder loops remain. So 2 loops at either end, everything else just plain half double crochet, so that I can close off all of these loops on the next single crochet row. Just taking a quick measurement, I am now up to 22 centimetres for this portion. So I'll do the single crochet row next to close off the loops, and then I'll work up the shoulders. I've chained one and I've turned around. So the first 2 stitches, just single crochets. Not around there, around there. Around that loop. Push the loop forward and do 3 on the other side. So it's 1, 2, 3. And the next 2 I need to incorporate the loop from the 2 rows before. So in through the loop and in through my ladder. And single crochet. In through the next one, in through the ladder, single crochet. Next 2 are on their own. Next 2 with a ladder. All the way along, 2 alone, 2 with a ladder, 2 alone, 2 with a ladder, till you get to the last ladder. So I've worked all the way along attaching my ladders at the top there, apart from the first one obviously. And here I am at the last one. So I've just attached the last ladder with those 2 stitches. And from here, to mirror what I did on the other side, 3 single crochets on this side of the shoulder ladder, which is going to continue on. Push that guy down to the front, and then there's just the 2 either side, the other side of that one. This is what this looks like right side up. So we now have the 2 shoulder chains that are going to continue on from here. Everything else is locked off. So this is kind of business as usual on a smaller scale. Starting the row with, have I chained? I have not. So chain 1, and then 2 half double crochets. One, 2, chain 8, slip stitch into the base, and then 2 more half double crochets. Turn around, chain 1, come back with 4 single crochets, and then just repeat that over and over, just those 4 stitches, until this section, this shoulder section, goes right to the top of your shoulder. Then we'll come back and do this side. I'm at that point where I can't get the item all in frame. I've worked a shoulder strap, shoulder portion, 9 more loops and 15 centimeters. So I've just worked the half double crochet row without any loop, and I'm onto the single crochet row to lock that loop down. So let's lock it down. I've chained one already. I turn around. First one's just a single crochet on its own. Second one, insert into the loop, insert into my ladder top. Single crochet. Third one, same, through the loop, through the ladder top. And the fourth one just goes on its own at the end here. And then I'm just going to do another row of single crochet, just because I need to join the shoulders, and it just helps to have that extra row to stitch place stitches into. There we go. Chain 1 to secure, pull that tight, cut my yarn. So that's one side finished. Moving down and across to the other side, I've got my loose loop here. It's going to go right up the shoulder, same way. Counting in from the side, 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. I insert my hook, pop on a slip knot, whip that through, chain 1 to secure, tighten that up. And from here I do a standing half double. And another half double, chain 8, slip stitch into the base as usual, 2 more half doubles, and then just carry on here, single crochet row, half doubles with loops for 4 stitches, same as we did on the other side, to create the shoulder portion on this side. Don't forget the extra row of single crochet if you're working that. Chain 1 and cut. And so I have a completed front panel. I also have a completed back panel. Worked in exactly the same way as the front, minus the loops. So same amount of rows, same amount of decreases, same amount going up for the chest, same amount for the shoulder portion. If it's easier to keep track, I've actually added stitch markers everywhere I'd start a loop row. So at the beginning row, the first single crochet row from the chain, and then every half double row after that. And I know that I had 8 loops going up the first section, and then worked decreases at both ends, then decreases after that because I'd closed off my shoulder loop, and then I had 5 total after the 8, so I had 8, 5 and 9, and I worked the same amount of rows to match that. This shoulder section might look slightly longer, in fact the whole thing might look slightly longer because you don't have the loops pulling it in ever so slightly, but all will come good, so don't worry. I've left a large tail end on this shoulder to join up the shoulders, and I've left my yarn attached at this corner to join up this shoulder. So moving on to join the panels. With the front panel, it's kind of obvious. The front of it is full of ladders, that's your front. With the back panel, typically the front facing is the side when you've got the tail end at the left. And this is the front. The back, for me, it looks slightly flatter. So because I've got so much texture on the front in this particular project, I'm actually going to have this as my outward facing side, the back panel, just because I think it looks a little bit flatter. So it's technically the wrong side, but today it's the right side. Today it has its day. So choose which one you prefer and have your right sides facing each other, so touching each other to join up. I'm going to start with the shoulders. Here I am at the shoulder. Got the 2 sides, the good sides facing each other, 2 outward facing sides are now facing inwards. I've got 4 stitches along the top of either one. I've still got my yarn attached, as I mentioned, I left that attached to join. So yarn through the loop, and then through the first 2 loops on either panel. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through for a single crochet. Through the next 2, whoops, fallen out, single crochet. Through the next 2, same deal, through the last 2, easy. Chain up 1 to secure and cut your yarn. I've been at it with the stitch markers again to mark out the side seam. The first one I marked out was where the taper begins, So I only want to seam up this straight edge. Where it starts to taper for the underarm section, that forms part of your arm opening. That's not to be seamed off at this point. So I've hooked up both sides at the start of the taper. Then hook up both sides at the very end into the final stitches at the very end of the bottom. And then you'll see the pattern forms ridges. Every time you do a single crochet row and a half double crochet row together, it forms a ridge section. So I've just marked out a few of those, again matching side, back and front, so the ridges line up on both sides. And what that does, it keeps it in place and stops it from flapping about while you're trying to join it, and making sure that you've got a nice tidy seam which follows around back to front. So I'm going to make sure that I get 2 stitches between these ridges in each case. So I'll have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 and then 15 because I had 2 single crochet rows. I've swapped my first stitch marker for a hook, inserting through 2 stitches on both sides. I'm going from top to bottom. I've already left my yarn attached at the shoulder to then continue along with the arm opening. If I hadn't, I've just got a separate ball of yarn. If I hadn't, I would have gone from bottom to top, and then I'm in position with my yarn to work the arm opening. So as it is, I'm going to go top to bottom, because it doesn't matter. So in through both stitches on both sides, put on a slip knot, whip that through, chain 1 to secure, pull it tight. As I mentioned, I want 2 stitches between each ridge. No real exactness to it because there are no stitches going down this side like we had on the top shoulder. Just want to make sure I pick up a couple of loops on each side to get a good firm join. So you just have to kind of force your way through basically as neatly as you can. So that's 1, that's 2. Next section, 1 and 2. Just take that out of the way. Next section, 1 and 2. Oops, that's too many. So you don't want too shallow a connection, you don't want a too deep a connection either, so that you've gone through too much of the stitch. Otherwise it'll start sort of bunching up and you'll see it on the other side. So again, 1 and 2. And just do that all the way down and single crochet. When you get to the corner, as I say, if you're working up to the top, leave your yarn attached. I'm going to chain 1 and cut. Okay, all seamed up, I'm right side out again, and I'm on the opening of the arm, around the arm, where I'm going to add a trim of about 3 centimetres. First job is to go around with a row of single crochet. As I mentioned, I'm at the top here, so if you're at the bottom it doesn't matter, top or bottom is fine. So I've chained 1, because my yarn was still attached, and I'm going to put a single crochet, 2 of them in each ridge section. So as we looked at the ridges when we joined the sides here, the same applies up here. Little ridges and little sections between them. In between them, directly in the centre, I have this sort of a side of a stitch, and that's where I'm going to put my 2 single crochets in each instance. So as I say, I've chained 1 at the start, and I'm going to make 2 single crochets into that very same side stitch. Onto the next ridge, it's there and there, directly into the middle, 2 single crochets. Oops, won't let me. There we go. Here's the next one, in the middle, 2. That's the case all the way down until you get to these side stitches, and that's where I'll be next. I'm here at the tapered section now. I've come all the way down the straight bit, and I'm going to have to look to the back for my ridges this time because there's a lot going on at the front and I can't really see where they are, but at the back it's still quite clear. There's 1, 2, 3 for me. The other thing is I'm working into reduction stitches, so they're not as tidy as the ones going up the side. So I'm still aiming for the middle. So here's my section. Here's the middle of that section, and I'm just going to try and pick up 2 loops, whichever 2 loops I can grab, and put 2 stitches. So that's number 1. My second section is here. The centre is around here. So there's 2 in there. And number 3. Let's try and grab another loop there. Oh, there is 2 there actually. So 2 in there. And there I am at the seam, the side seam. I'm going to put 2 into there. And now I'm up the other side. So I'll do the exact same thing as I did up this side. So 3 sections up the side for me, 2 stitches in each, and then I'm back to the upright. And I'm going to slip stitch into the chain 1 that I worked at the very start. So that's all the way around the armhole, and everything looks a whole bunch neater. Got nice stitches to work with for the trim. From here I'm going to drop off my 5.5mm hook and pick up a 2.5mm hook, 2mm smaller. And what was the recommended size? 4. 4 was the recommended size for this yarn, so I've gone 1.5mm up and then down for this section. So here I'm going to chain out 5. Right from where I left off, yarn was still attached. And I'm going to chain an extra one to turn. Then I'm going to work down that chain with a single crochet in each. And 5. There. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the very next stitch along my armhole, and then I'm going to slip stitch again into the one after that. Then I'm going to turn around onto my new section and go back up with back loop single crochet, starting from the 3rd stitch. These first 2 stitches I've just worked slip stitches. So starting from here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 still. So 3rd stitch along, back loop only, the loop furthest away from me, single crochet. I hope you can see it's kind of fiddly because it's so small. Probably easy to see on the way back down. Chain 1 to turn. I don't work into my turning chain, and I'm coming back down again, back loop, single crochet, 2, 3, pull up some yarn, 4 and 5. Make sure you work all these stitches, don't lose them at this end. Also, you can lose them at this end if you forget to chain 1 and then work back into the 2nd stitch. So just make sure you're working all the stitches. And then I'm going to slip stitch again into this base around the armhole twice. So turn back, 3rd stitch from the hook, back loop single crochet, chain 1, 5 stitches back down, slip stitch twice around the armhole, and do that all the way around until I work all the way around the armhole and I come back to here where I'm going to join the 2 sides. Worked all the way around with my armhole trim, 5 stitches and back loop single crochet, and I've got these 2 ends now just to join It looks like the shoulder section wants to, well it is bending that way at the moment, but there'll be a trim added at this side also in a minute, and that'll bring it back in line. It's just that this back loop stitch is stretchy, so it wants to go where the stretch is leading it. So, seam up the top. I just slip stitched into the last stitch on the armhole, the base, and I'm just going to turn these two sides in towards each other. So these are the right sides, they're now on the inside. So I'm going to work the seam on the inside edge, same way as I seamed up the shoulder. So the side nearest to me has the side that I've just finished working on. This is the final row of the trim. So I have 2 loops. The side furthest away from me is the chain row where I started. So there's a remaining loop left from the chain. So into the nearest loop to me on the last row I've worked, so the front loop, and into the remaining loop from the start chain, and pull through a slip stitch. Sorry, my yarn's splitting. Okay, into the next front loop, into the remaining loop from the chain, and pull through a slip stitch all the way down. I've only got 5, so bear with me. There we go, number 5, chain 1, pull it tight, cut your yarn. And that's what the seam looks like on the other side. So with that side finished, I'm going to go and do the same on the other armhole, and I'm also going to work the same trim around the neck opening. Exactly the same deal, work a single crochet row all the way around the edge. When you get to the bottom, the chest section, there are actual stitches to work into. I would just say make sure you don't miss that first stitch on the corner where the yarn was joined at this side, and there's a stitch over here which had another stitch in going up the shoulder, so make sure you work those corner stitches with a single crochet, and then just work in exactly the same way with the trim. So chain out 5 and work backwards and forwards, up and down maybe, in back loop single crochet, joining when you get to the start. Again with the base, you've got nice stitches to work into. I actually chained out 12 for the base, just for a slightly longer trim. And again, same deal, backwards and forwards, back loop single crochet, seam it up when you get round to the other side, and then you're all done. Just to show you, for the other armhole, I joined my yarn at the top. There's no reason for it other than obsessive compulsive reasons. It's because it was at the top here. The seam is not visible on the outside, that's the reason we're joining that way. But yeah, I joined at the top to match the other side. And then at the back, I've joined in the centre of the back for the neck trim and also for the bottom trim. But again, doesn't matter, you can't see the seam from the other side anyway, it's purely because I'm obsessive. So that's that. If you've been following along, you should now have something that looks like this. I hope you found the video helpful. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you want more content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get a heads up on any new upload. Finally, as always, thank you so much for watching today.